Okay, so it's 10:06. I think we're gonna get started. I think other people are coming in, and I see that Stella is still trying to get in. But anyway, good morning, everyone. My name is Osmundson, and I am a real estate broker associate at the Windermere Diablo Realty. My office is right on Ignacio Valley Road, Cross Street, Walnut Boulevard, Windermere Diablo Realty. And today we are presenting this topic on smart homes, save your money, save the world. It is very timely, especially when so many people have experienced the sheltering in place, and there are things that are more important now than ever before from a real estate standpoint, because this is a real estate seminars on a regular basis. And I used to present my seminars at the Ignacio Valley Library on Oak Grove Road. But because of the shelter in place, all the libraries are closed. So now I'm glad that we were able to figure it out and put it on Zoom so we can continue to learn. Because this is a real estate seminar, and I usually will give a little update on the real estate market and before we get into the feature presentations. The real estate market has been very exciting, actually. As many buyers would probably think that in this unprecedented time, the real estate prices are probably going to plummet just like 2008. But the reality is not that. If people are thinking that, or buyers, if buyers are thinking that I'm going to wait until the prices go down by 70% like before, or 50% or 25% or whatever, it's not going to happen this time. The difference is that in 2008, the market was not supported with cash. I always tell people that the market that we were in, even before the pandemic and after, the real estate market that we were in have been supported by gold blocks. Since 2008, the home buyers who got into the real estate market at the beginning from 2010, when it started to recover, from 2010 to 2015, pretty much, the majority of the home buyers came in with cash. So that's the first layer of the gold blocks building up this real estate market. And then later on, all the all cash buyers were, we did not have as many all cash buyers, and people started to use the loan programs. But I'm not saying that, from 2010 to 2015, they were all cash buyers. But even if they weren't all cash buyers, they brought with them substantial down payments because the banks were so broke that they would not make loans without substantial down payments. So we saw down payments in the levels of 40%, 50%, and then later on, as it got closer and closer to 2020, that people started to use the regular conventional loan programs with 20% down, and only until recently that we are seeing more of the FHA loan programs, with only 3.5% down payment. So with that in mind, the market is still very solid, very strong. And so home buyers were thinking, oh, the prices will come down. It's not going to come down right away, then I'm just going to wait. And what they do when they wait, that they will just find out for themselves that the prices are not going to come down as they would expect, and they would see the interest rates going up. The current market is that, yes, there have been fewer buyers looking at properties because of the restrictions of showings, the guidelines of showing properties. And yes, so the demand on the buyers on the demand side, the numbers did go down. However, on the seller side, on the listing side, on the supply side, sellers are worried and concerned about strangers coming into their homes. So, and sellers are also concerned about the properties, if they put it on the market, will that put them in a disadvantaged position that buyers are going to negotiate with them. So from the seller's perspective, they go, I'm going to wait, so I'm not going to put my property on the market. So the real estate market is very simple. It's always supported by supply and demand. So supply didn't go down. I mean, supply went down, but demand at the same time also went down. So with the supply and demand going down pretty much at the same level, so that just created the market that is, you know, the price level pretty much stable from before the pandemic, or before the shelter in place. My own personal experience is that I had a listing that went on the market right at the beginning of shelter in place. My seller client was very concerned, you know, not knowing whether the property would sell. Is this a good time? Should we wait? So it went on the market, and within 5 days, boom, 3 offers. So that's the kind of market that we are in. And then this was, so Ellen, this was a 1031 client. So buying a replacement property that she was thinking, oh, maybe she would get a good deal because the market was going down. But in reality, she had to go in and she had to compete with other buyers. So we are in escrow. So the bottom line is that real estate activities continue. And just wanted to give you a little bit of perspective about supply and demand and where we are. I always use the number of listings in Walnut Creek to gauge the market. Walnut Creek, usually I'm talking about even before the 2008 crash. At that time, before that, we always had about anywhere between 200 and 250 listings in Walnut Creek as a whole, you know, properties of all prices. But for a very, very long time, in the last 5 years, the number of listings have been staying below 100. And the lowest number of listings I remember was 33 in the entire Walnut Creek. And that was the year that the market started to take off. It was 2011. I remember it was January 2nd. And at that time, the buyers are just coming in like there's no more houses for them to buy. They have to buy this one. So every listing that came on the market, they had multiple offers. 5 to 10 offers was the norm at that time. But we don't see the 5 to 10 offers. And the 5 to 10 offers competition, that the scenario has been going on, you know, even until before the shelter in place. And so shelter in place kicked in, then then yes, there are buyers and sellers, they are concerned, so they kind of stay away from the market. Okay, so we're talking about 5 to 10 buyers before, and now there are only like 2 to 3 buyers now per listing. And so we're talking about 70% of the buying power is now stepping aside, staying on the sideline. And even with that we still have the 20 to 30% home buying abilities that are still actively pursuing in the real estate market. So, and the number of listings, even though now, as of just now I checked, in Walnut Creek, we have 147 listings. That is still way below than the previous normal of 200 to 250 listings. So with the buying demand still in place, even though diminished from the crazy times, and with the also diminishing number of listings, so the real estate market continues. The home prices are not gonna go down anytime soon, or in a big way, like in 2008. And so that's really the bottom line. I've been attending all the seminars presented by different chief economists of banks or real estate associations and so on. The latest one was just yesterday presented by the chief economist of the California Association of Realtors. And what he said was that, and it was actually very consistent across the board, is that now, with this stay-at-home practice that we've been doing, that also working from home, then many employers are realizing that they can actually continue the business without the workers going into the office. And because of that, then actually that opens up the economic opportunities, the employment opportunities of people living from a distance from all these companies. And because more people are working from home now, then they are looking at properties. If they were looking at properties with 2 bedrooms, now they actually would like to have a 3-bedroom or at least an office, so that they will have a designated space for working from home. And one thing that is very, very good news for us in the suburbs, that many people living in the big cities, working in the big cities, now because of the ability to work from home, many of them are considering moving to suburbs. We in the suburbs, in Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill, somewhere around here, we are very well set up for that, to accept those buyers coming in, because we are kind of, I'm in Walnut Creek, we were kind of in the suburb city kind of a setting, and we still have the public transportation, even though many people are not considering public transportation nowadays, or maybe it's still uncomfortable for the next year or so, but eventually that is still the main way to bring people if they do have to go to work in the office. But the interesting change will be for businesses on the real estate, commercial real estate side, that we will see a more significant change of the real estate demand, because now employers realize and see that their employees continue to be productive while they're working from home. So do they still need all these big office spaces in big cities when they can actually hire somebody from Kentucky to work for a company in San Francisco or New York? And then actually opens up the whole different market scenario for all of us. But so the bottom line is that if you are waiting to see prices coming down, or if you have sons, daughters, grandkids wanting to buy real estate, buy a house somewhere sometime soon, but you're waiting for the time then when the prices are the lowest, so I believe that the time may very well be now. Also, down the road, maybe the home prices may be going down a little bit, but the forecast of the home prices going down is going to be within the single digit. It's not like 2008, we saw a minimum of 25% price depletion. We're not going to see that. And even with the single digit price adjustment, we are talking about not 9.9%, we are talking about maybe 3.7% price adjustment. But by the time we reach that point, if some people would like to time the market, when we reach that point, that we may be looking at a much higher interest rate. The interest rate level is very low now, historically low. And so there you have it. If you have any friends, family, who's looking at buying, then the time is now or within the next few months if you want to enjoy the lower interest rate. But that's so much, that's enough about the real estate market. But today, actually, I am very happy to have two very powerful speakers speaking to us that is also real estate related. Recently, I worked very hard, as I always do. I achieved my green designation. This is my certificate that I received recently. The green designation is about the sustainable living and practice that we do in relations to real estate. And while I was working on getting the green designation, I felt like I learned a lot about ways to build or ways to remodel, or the terminologies of different terms, and what do those terms mean? And sometimes those terms can be very intimidating. What is LEED? What is IAQ? That I learned all of that, and a lot of them, they are just very practical terms and terms that we use on a daily basis. IAQ actually means interior air quality. So it's nothing intimidated at all. And at the end of my presentation, Tyler is going to post a glossary of terms so that I can share with all of you, and so that you will have an idea of what these terms mean. But today it is my great pleasure to have two powerful speakers. One is Tina Neuhausel. She is the founder, president, and CEO of Sustainable Contra Costa. And she is a powerhouse, and she's passionate about sustainability living and how do we live responsibly. And she also has recently remodeled her home to upgrade the energy practices in her home. So she will share with us her information. She's a wealth of knowledge in this area. And then our other speaker is Jeffery Liang, right? Jeffery is the he is the project manager of BayREN. BayREN is Bay Area Regional Energy Network. Did I get it right? Okay, and BayREN is a government organization, and Jeffery is going to speak with us about the government programs, the government incentive programs, and I heard that he's going to have some breaking news for us during this seminar, right? Okay, and without further ado, and I will give you Tina. Tina, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. So I am Tina Neuhausel with Sustainable Contra Costa. I'm going to pull up my slides here. I'm going to share my screen. Present. Can you all see my screen?
Not yet.
Just while we are getting that up, Tina, I want to encourage everyone, since everybody is muted, if you have a question while the presentations are happening, just go ahead and use the chat feature on Zoom to type your question in. If you're familiar with Zoom, you just go to the little chat button and you can type your question, and then we'll have a period of question and answer at the end.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so Sustainable Contra Costa is a nonprofit organization. We started back in 2008 to help people learn to live sustainably in order to have healthy homes and communities, and to leave our planet in, a good condition for our children and all of our grandchildren to enjoy down the road. We're a group of community of citizens and educators and and students, community groups, just individuals, all kinds of people working together for ecologically sustainable, economically vibrant, and socially just communities for all. How do I get the screen to advance? You know, I practiced this. Okay.
Yes.
Why is this important? The ways that our homes are designed, renovated, and maintained have a big impact on our air quality and our health, especially for children. Saving water and energy reduces your water and energy bills. And most people are concerned about the climate and want to lighten their footprint on the earth, but don't really know exactly what to do or how to get started. And we want to really help empower people to feel that there are plenty of things that we can all do. And it's just a matter of taking that one step and going from there. We're so lucky to live in this beautiful place. And I want to make sure that I can do everything in my daily life to make sure our kids have a beautiful place to live and enjoy when they get older. So you may be surprised, I was really surprised to find out that actually 40% of US greenhouse gas emissions come from 5 basic household activities that we do every day. That's how we heat our homes, electricity, transportation, our food choices, and our waste streams. So those 5 things alone make up 40% of the US emissions. That's really surprising, isn't it? So here's a little quiz for you. Which here accounts for most of your household total energy costs? Lighting, water and heating, or water heating, heating and cooling, or leaks? Well, if you're guessing heating and cooling, you're right. And the good news is that we have solutions for all 5 of these areas. You can take practical action to not only significantly lower your impact on the earth, but also save money and improve our health and create local jobs. So let's talk about water. Water is one of our most precious, finite resources. We literally can't live without it. Oh, by the way, that's the front of my house. You might see some construction debris because we're in a remodel right now. And on top of there, later on, I don't know if Jeffrey's going to talk about cool roofs, but this is a metal roof that the color we picked, it's a cool Energy Star rated cool roof. Anyway, we'll talk about some of those features later, I think. So where does our water come from? When you turn on that tap, you know, where is it coming from? It just doesn't come out from nowhere. The biggest reservoir we have is the Sierra Snowpack. It lasts all the way through the spring. It travels down rivers like the Stanislaus and the Macalumni, I think it's called. Sorry, my dogs are barking. Can you hear the dogs barking? And if you have Contra Costa Water District, it comes from the Delta, a meandering group of waterways, and into the Contra Costa Canal. If you have East Bay Mud, it comes from the watershed in the Sierra down to 5 local Bay Area reservoirs. Then it goes through our high-tech treatment plants and into our homes. So when you turn on the tap, think about the journey of your water and where it came from. So what happens if we don't get much snow? The left photo here shows, the white area shows the snow. The left photo is the snowpack back in 2013. If you think about the prior slide, we had a big reservoir this year. That means that, and then if you look at the slide on the right, that's exactly 1 year later. Look how much less snow we had that year. So that means we had the big reservoir we had from the year before is much smaller. And when you have a couple of years like that in a row, that's when you get into a fairly serious drought. Now, climate change is absolutely going to affect our snowpack in the long run. So we're going to have smaller and smaller snowpacks, which means we're going to have less and less water. So why improve water use efficiency? Obviously, the reasons we just talked about are some of them. Reducing your, to save money. If we're going to use less water, you're going to pay less. Saved water stays in the Delta, and all those ecosystems there need water. So when you're not using it, it's there for the fish. If you have a very water efficient home and the water district needs to cut energy usage in any particular year, if you're already using a small amount, they're not going to ask you to cut. It is true, and I'd like to, I can't see everybody, but I'd like to see if there's any surprised faces about what I just said, because many years ago it was true that if they had to make cuts, they would just cut across the board. Say everybody has to save 20%. At least the Contra Costa Water District has promised over and over that they will never do that again, because over the so many droughts we've had over the years, everybody's already cut so much that they really can't cut anymore. But there are plenty of customers out there who can still make reductions. So how much water do we use at home? Indoor, let me get this out of the way if I can. Indoors, it varies, of course, per home, but the average family uses more than 120 gallons a day indoors, but efficient homes can actually cut that in half. So think about 120 gallons every day. That's inefficient fixtures and behaviors. Well, in the outdoors and nicely landscaped yards, use 100 to 500 gallons a day. But again, that can be reduced in half with efficient irrigation and water-wise plants. So how much water do we use at home? This slide gives us kind of a feel for where our water goes. So when we want to be more efficient, we want to address the areas where we can make the biggest difference. You see on the left, of course, landscape is going to be a key one, but also faucets, showers, clothes washers, and toilets are the other areas where you can really make a difference. We're going to address the three biggies for indoors: clothes washers, toilets, and shower heads. So older style washers used up to, oh, I meant to start the timer there. Okay, older style washers used up to 45 gallons a load, but new high efficiency washers use 13 to 23 gallons. And also that they clean the clothes better, and the clothes don't need to go in the dryer as long, so that gives you extra energy efficiency benefits too. So if you want to get a high efficiency washer for your house, you'll want to buy one that's Energy Star rated. I'm sure everybody's seen that logo. You'll save up to 9,000 gallons of water and $200 a year in energy costs compared to the older machines. So let's talk toilets for a minute. It's the next biggie for energy use in the house. A little background on toilets. Back in 1970, older toilets flushed 5 to 7 gallons per flush. And then in the 1980s, the plumbing code changed and they dropped down to 3.5 gallons. And then in the 90s, the standard dropped to 1.6 gallons, but something went really wrong in the 90s. A lot of those toilets weren't made very well and they didn't flush well. So people were like, oh, I'm gonna have to double flush. Well, that was true back then, but fortunately, today's toilets are made a lot better. The most current toilet you can buy in California is 1.28 gallons. So if you want to get a high efficiency toilet for your home, make sure you get one that has been third-party tested. You can go to this website, maptesting.com, to learn about all the different models. I've heard Toto is a good brand. Toilets leak. So you'll want to make sure that you test your toilets for leaks. So test your flapper. That's that blue thing at the bottom, because they can get old and warped and not seal. And you'll want to be sure when you do replace a flapper that it's for the right make and model for your toilet. Check the water level. The water in your toilet should come an inch below the water level line on that tube in your toilet. And the thing about toilet leaks is you don't know that they're leaking, so it's important to check them. It's not like they're leaking onto the floor, it's just going down the drain. The third biggie in a household for indoor water savings can be our shower heads. Now, if you have teenagers in the house, it could be your first biggest water user. The water district recommends one that's 1.75 to 2 gallons per minute flow. You could go lower than that, but then you wouldn't have a very quality shower. It would be not good water pressure. High water efficiency is not about suffering. You shouldn't have to hate the experience of your shower. You want to have a good shower, but just use less water. Even if, and you might even install a little button on the back of your shower head that turns it off while you're sudsing up the shutoff valve. Also, Contra Costa water has free shower heads and bags to test your flow. Okay, there we go. We've touched on the 3 biggies for indoors. Now we're going to talk about landscape. Landscape uses about half of the water in our homes, so it has a lot of potential for savings. The top 5 actions that you can do to save water in your landscape. Number 1 is properly setting your irrigation timer. So if you have one and you don't know how to set it, let's say your gardener sets it. That's a good one if your gardener sets it. And you have a high water bill, it's kind of like you're essentially saying to your gardener, here's a blank check to the water district. You go ahead and fill it out and send it in to them. That's what you're doing when you're letting your gardener control the timer. You'll need to learn to set it and take control of that. So we'll talk about these other 5 areas real quick. So properly setting the timer, the keys are days per week, cycle and soak, and time of day. Generally, you can water a lawn 3 days a week and it can be perfectly green and lush. If you're watering 5 to 6 times a week, you're overwatering. The second thing is a method called cycle and soak. Let's say you water the lawn for 15 minutes. Generally, what happens with our clay soil is that after about 5 minutes, that water starts to run off to the low spots or even off to the concrete and paths. So if you, instead of watering for 15 minutes at one time, set your timer to water for 5 minutes, and then an hour later, set it for another 5 minutes, and an hour later, water another 5 minutes. So 3 cycles of 5 is going to give your lawn or your plants more water than 1 cycle at 15. You could even probably set it for 4 minutes and you'll get each 3 times and get more water. So thirdly, is time of day. Be sure to water late in the evening or early in the morning and never in the heat of day. Also, the water district on their website, the CCWD, has this great lawn and landscape watering schedule. It shows you a schedule that helps you understand how long to plant for water for sprinklers and shrubs and all kinds of things. It's great. And also both East Bay Mud and Contra Costa Water have a rebate for weather-based controllers, which are awesome. It changed my life to have a controller that knows the weather, and it'll only water when you actually need it. And the amount, it changes the amount and the days automatically. So if you have shrubs like these that are pretty hardy and you're watering, say 4 days a week, you're overwatering. Established water-wise shrubs only need 1 day a week. And the key is just to do that cycle and soak method I talked about earlier. You want to inspect and repair your sprinklers. So look for things like misting on the left here. That overspray means that your pressure is too high. And there's ways to fix that with a pressure regulator. I would talk to an irrigation person or your irrigation supply about that. You'll want to get more droplets, of course, in the plants than into the air that evaporate. And of course, fix any broken sprinklers. This on the left here is a weeping valve. Look for that. Now that doesn't mean that you have a broken sprinkler head. It means that you have a problem with the valve. If it's leaking all day long, it's actually a valve problem. There's probably like a rip or a pebble in the valve, so you'll want to get that replaced. I've heard that Rainbow and Toro, and on the right, if you take a look at this right before you mow, if it's being blocked, you'll want to replace the head with a taller sprinkler head, or you can dig it up and lift it up. You can use a weed eater and cut around there so it doesn't do that to lower the grass level. one tip on sprinklers is I've heard that you do not want to buy sprinklers at big box stores. They're not reliable. You be sure to use sprinklers from a good irrigation store. There's a Ewing Irrigation in Concord. And if you're willing to go to Richmond or you need to go to Richmond, there's a great store out there called the Urban Farmer Store. So this is exciting. The next thing you can do is replace your thirsty lawn with a water-wise landscape. Lawns are the biggest outdoor water users for many homes. So this person had a lawn on a hillside and it was hard to water because the water would run down. She wasn't using that cycle and soak method I talked about. She hired a designer and created this beautiful landscape. She got a rebate from the water district of $1,000. So Contra Costa Water will give you $1 per square foot rebate for replacing your lawn in the front yard, up to $1,000. If you have East Bay mud, you can get up to $2,000. They'll give you 75 cents a square foot, and I believe they do both front and backyards. So this is my most favorite thing to talk about with water efficiency. If you have any weeds or lawn that you want to get rid of, have you ever heard of sheet mulching? It's super easy. This is my backyard. I actually had a really cute picture of my daughter who's down here in the picture when she was about 8, helping us sheet mulch the yard. This is a section of it when we did it. But basically, you mow your weeds or lawn down really short, and you take cardboard. You could get free cardboard from Costco. Is a great place for free big flat sheets of cardboard, bike shops, appliance shops, hardware stores. And you just want to layer it really like 6 to 8 inches overlapping on the edges so no light gets through, and then you put mulch on top. If you want to plant plants, this would be the time before you put the mulch to cut the hole in the cardboard and dig in and plant your plants and put your irrigation and then put the mulch on top. Oh, before you put the mulch, you want to soak the cardboard with a hose really well. So that's the yard back then when we did it. And this is the same section of the yard today, actually. And I did keep a little small section for the kids to play on and enjoy. And again, you get a rebate for doing that. It's just a really very effective and affordable thing to do. So I thought this was appropriate for this our group here. And if you happen to be moving into a new home, there are things that you want to look for. Find your irrigation timer and make sure that it works. You have to know that before when they put the house on the market, they probably cranked up the sprinklers and put a bunch of fertilizer on. So find the irrigation timer, make sure it works, set it according to the water district schedule if you want, it's helpful. And also look for leaks and all that, of course. East Bay Mud and Contra Costa Water both offer free water-wise house calls. Literally, it's a call now or a FaceTime call if you want, but they can do sort of a water audit for you for free. And they also have a do-it-yourself water audit online. So that's it for me. I think we can take questions about this later, and I think we're ready to turn it over to Jeffrey to talk about using building science to improve our health and comfort at home.
Thank you, Tina.
Great. Thank you, Tina. Let me just pull up my presentation. So my name is Jeffery Liang. And can someone just confirm that they can see my presentation?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, let me get this started. So I am so this is talking about using building science to improve health and comfort at home. And really, a lot of people have kind of different ideas as to what makes a home energy efficient. In fact, I've been doing this for probably 10, 12 years now. And whenever people, talk to me at parties, they're like, oh, energy efficiency, I need to do solar, or I need to do windows. And when we look at the science, it's actually a lot, somewhat surprising what are the most cost-effective things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. and what are the best ways to really improve your health and comfort at home. So again, BayREN is the Bay Area Regional Energy Network. We are a local government collaborative. So it is these 9 Bay Area counties from Sonoma all the way down to Santa Clara. And we receive funds from the state to administer these programs. So whenever you pay an energy bill and you see a public goods charge, I don't know how many people really look at their bill that closely, but there's a public goods charge. And that charge goes to the state to run programs like these, to make our buildings more energy efficient. But what we find is that energy efficiency is kind of our goal, but what we're finding is that, for people who live in the home, it's about comfort and health. So talk a little bit more about that. So these are probably very common problems in the home. Like I said, I actually used to work with Tina way back in 2011 when we were launching the statewide Energy Upgrade California program. And we would do presentations, and almost without fail, everyone would have some of these issues. Like I can't tell you how many times people have told me, I can't sleep upstairs because it's so hot in the summer. And in the winter, I can see my breath because it's so cold. Someone's come up to me and said, it felt like we were camping outside every day because of how drafty the home is. Obviously, we have a lot of issues with just the comfort of our homes, but I think people also don't realize that a lot of this also has kind of translates into health issues. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight that. So most people don't know that indoor air quality is 2 to 5 times worse than outdoor air quality. Unfortunately, I can't see all your faces, but usually when I say this, I get a huge gasp or some really wide eyes, because that's very surprising. We're very concerned about outdoor air quality, especially with the fires in the past couple of years. But people don't realize that, when we talk about, kind of asthma and all those issues, it's really our homes that we should be looking at even more than outdoor air quality. I mean, it's great that, there's been lots of pictures of how much less pollution there is outside because of the less commuting. But we should also be more concerned because we're at home more of the time. 90% of our days, and this was before the pandemic, we spend 90% of our days in buildings. And as you'll see, if they're not built correctly and they're not ventilated right, that can have a huge impact on our health. And just again, this is my daughter. She's a little older now, 2.5 years old. As I learned more about these health issues in the home, it really made the difference for me because, I'm holding my child. She's close to my body. I can hear how she breathes a lot faster than I do. And of course, her immune system isn't as good. And as I learned more of the things that I'm going to tell you, I wanted to make sure all my friends who had kids knew about this, because there's some very surprising statistics. So let's get into it. So how do we know what's the best way to fix our homes? We don't guess, we actually test. And so my wife is a nurse at Stanford. She comes back home sometimes and tells me about patients who go in and say, oh, I know what I need. Just give me this medicine, I'll be on my way. And she says, that frustrates her because she knows the right order of things is for someone to get them tested out, get a diagnosis, and then get a prognosis, kind of a prescription for how to get better. You should go, your blood pressure high, so you need to stop eating red meat, you need to go exercise, you need to take this medicine. This is the same way we really need to think about homes. Instead of just guessing what's going to work, we actually need to go out and test. And so we have contractors who do this. The duct blaster, what it does is blow air into a duct system and then figure out how much it leaks by seeing how much of it comes back. Same thing with the blower door. It's a big fan in your house, in your door, and they seal up everything. all the windows and the doors. They blow in air in or out, and then see how fast it leaks in and that air leaks. And so based on that, what we found is there's actually 3 things that are the biggest contributors to how uncomfortable our home feels, and subsequently kind of health and also energy bills. So the first thing is actually air leakage. So this or kind of image that I give is, if you added up all the holes in the average home, they'd be the size of about a hula hoop. So think about that. All that air that you are circulating throughout the house, heating up in the winter or cooling down in the summer, all that, is essentially going out a hole the size of a hula hoop. That's a lot of waste. Where is that coming from? I don't know if you can see my my precursor here, but there all these red arrows here on the top is how air leaks out. So one of the major things, if you hold up an infrared camera to your ceiling during like the summer, you may often see that your roof looks and your ceiling looks like a Swiss cheese, because there's can lights, there's vents, there's things that aren't sealed properly. All this is letting air up into the attic and then going out the roof. Not only do you get the hot air going out, and so this is kind of like a winter situation, but you're getting cold air coming in from other places. So if your floors feel cold during the winter, most likely, you may be getting some kind of cold air coming up from the vents that aren't sealed properly. Put your hand next to an outlet. Most oftentimes those are not sealed. You can get something a foam little pad that you can put over an outlet cover, or you just screw it off, you put it in and seal it back up. But these are the places where you're going to start feeling the cold air coming from. So when people say they feel drafty, it's surprisingly enough, it's not the windows that you typically feel the draft, it's the gaps around the windows, because that's where the air is going to come through. It's not going to try to come in through the place that's easy, that's hard. It's going to come in through places that's easy. So important thing that we suggest, and I'll talk about the contractors who do this type of work, is just start to air seal. The contractors go in, they find these places where there's gaps, and they just caulk them up right there. So that's number 1. Number 2, insulation. If you see insulation like the one over here, that is not doing you any good. Same over here. Insulation is like the blanket for your house. So when you're sleeping at night, you're not all that heat is getting trapped under the blanket, so you're staying nice and warm. That's what the insulation does for your house. And it also during the summer, it does the same. It pushes that heat. It keeps it from coming into the house. So oftentimes, if again using that infrared camera, you'll see there's a temperature gradient and that the heat's coming from the ceiling. So really, what your ceiling should look like and your attic space should look like is this. It should be kind of like freshly fallen snow to about 12. The more you can get, the better, but at least 12 to 15 inches, and you'll find that that's the standard for that the building code has set, that you need this amount. And this is again one of the biggest reasons why we feel hot or cold in our homes, especially in summer or winter. This one is the big one. So I have a very corny joke. Duct tape is good for everything but sealing ducts. Go and make Halloween costumes out of it. You can make wallets, but don't put it on your duct system, because as soon as it gets hot and cold, this is what happens. It starts to lose its adhesiveness. In fact, again, by the building code, you're not even allowed to use duct tape on ducts. You're supposed to use something called mastic, where you see right here. It's actually kind of like a paste that you glue around it, so that that expansion and contraction doesn't cause that joint to fail. So again, 30 to 40%, that's average. Think about that. That means that we have people who have higher than that. In fact, we've seen pictures of duct systems that are completely disconnected. Cable guy goes up there and knocks some things over. He doesn't think to put it back. So that's one of the big things to check. This photo in the middle here, also, if you start to see things like this, where there's a dirty spot around an insulation around the duct system, what that's telling us is that it's leaking behind here, because what this insulation is now doing is it's acting like a filter. And so again, when you're losing air into your crawl space and attic and making the pests and spiders really happy, that air needs to be made up someplace as well. And so a lot of times that gets sucked in through the duct system, and that's why you have these dirty spots. So I don't know if you really want to go look through your attic and crawl space today, but if you see that, that's what's happening. And like I said, sometimes the attics and the spiders and rats and all that are happier than we are in our homes, because all that heat is going into those spaces instead of where they should be going. So those are the three main things that we want to look at when you're kind of looking at the health and comfort of the home. But there's a couple other things, kind of like reducing energy bills, but there's a couple other things that really contribute to health as well. So ventilation is really important. Again, we want to make sure that people often say, oh, why don't I just open the window? That's okay. That's sometimes good, especially if the air quality is good outside. But what we want to do is control where we get air from. And so we want to make sure that when we're venting out, that there's enough airflow, that because really what mold needs is three things. It needs a organic kind of surface, like wood or anything that kind of is made out of something that was living. It needs water, and it needs a lack of air movement. And so it's so important that we get a lot of ventilation, especially in places like our bathrooms. In fact, by building code, I think they're supposed to be continuously running or have some kind of sensor that kicks on as soon as there's above a certain humidity level. Why that is important, as you see, even things like pushing the couch out. You don't think of the couch as being a huge source of water, but because there's no airflow, and if there's any sort of moisture, and we give out moisture as humans, we breathe in and out, that moisture can then lead to, and if there's no airflow, that can lead to mold, just like this. We also get water, kind of water coming in from our crawl spaces, and like our crawl spaces are usually pretty moist, and so that air coming in through the crawl space up into the house, that also can contribute to water vapor in the home. So this picture here shows how some contractors even completely seal off the bottom so that we don't have these problems. I'm just going to briefly touch on this. These are pictures of some of my colleagues' old water heaters and furnaces. And so after you've done all that, making sure that you are, keeping the house tight and sealed, then you want to start looking at more efficient water heaters and furnaces. So these are things that you want to look at. Our program I'll talk about later has rebates for these. And what it's important is, if you have a water heater like this, you also want to, you want to make sure that the exhaust fumes are going up. And so the program that I run, we have contractors that do these projects, and what they always do is check for combustion safety. So think about like Thanksgiving, you have friends in the past, and you have all these people coming to your house. You've got the shower on, you've got cooking on, you've got heating on. All these things are venting air out of the house, and the air, a house needs to be balanced. So the house is trying to, their air is trying to come in through different ways. And so if you have it so that all of this air is going out of the house, potentially the air that is the combustion gases that are supposed to be going up this flue may get sucked back down in certain situations. So that's why it's important to check for combustion safety. So not only like, when I talk about health and safety, this is important that we want to check that our combustion gases are not leaking back into the house. One last thing I want to mention is cooking. So the surprising statistic I heard is that kids who live in a home with a gas stove are 42% more likely to get asthma. And there's still a lot of studies being done on this, but what we learn is that when we cook on gas, it's not a complete combustion. There's things, byproducts, carbon monoxide, NOx gases, formaldehyde that spill out. And so again, we're here testing the levels, and we want generally to be like below 10 parts per million. Unfortunately, I'll show you some graphs where we see a lot more. But one quick tip, as I learned this, is, and often our exhaust hoods are not sized properly. It should be bigger than even this because you want to capture as much as possible. So my tip is try to cook as much on the back burners as possible and always turn on your exhaust fan. I do not let my daughter near me when I cook anymore, because at least when I'm cooking on the gas stove, because I don't want her to breathe these things and get asthma. One of the things I will talk, this is one of my personal heroes, and Bourdain, but restaurant chefs are cooking on induction. They learn on induction. This is a technology that uses electricity, but it uses magnets. And so you are not generating any of those combustion byproducts. You can get, I rent in San Francisco, so I don't have the opportunity to just change out my gas stove, but I bought an induction cooktop from Amazon for $60. And it heats up water a lot more quickly, and more importantly, it doesn't have those byproducts. So I can't do all my cooking on that. You do need to use a pan that has iron in it, but as much as possible, I'm starting to use that because I'm concerned about these health effects. Here's kind of like a graph, a study that UCLA did. As you see, carbon monoxide, we generally want to stay around this level, maybe even down here. But as you see in our homes, we often are seeing levels that are a lot higher. And these are 1 hour kind of different standards of 1 hour exposure limits. We really shouldn't even be getting to this because 1 hour, that's like, this is dangerous for life. So we want to be around here. Moving on to this side, this NOx gases, you see, these are the outdoor exposure guidelines. And you see when we cook, oftentimes we're way up above that. So cooking can sometimes be the most dangerous thing you do. And this is hard for me to say because I actually helped start a restaurant. So I love cooking. I do a lot of it, but I am concerned, and there are things, again, making sure you're ventilating properly, trying to use induction as much as possible to avoid some of these effects. And so these are some of the health effects, as I mentioned. Carbon monoxide. When inspectors go out there, I actually helped run the multifamily program in a while. We had stories, people who would have those carbon monoxide monitors on them, and it would start beeping. And carbon monoxide messes with your nervous system, so you can't think properly. And so he thankfully had been trained to get to the window, but he was really confused, and he just had to breathe for a while just to get the air back into his system. But if he didn't, he literally would have died. Again, I'm not going to go through all these things. These are all, pretty bad effects, acute and chronic. And so, as we are, one of the new things I'll talk about our rebates, we're starting to talk about electrification. We're trying to get all these gas appliances out of the home so we don't have these health effects. Last thing, I don't usually just read off my slide, but I thought this one was really important. Studies of comprehensive energy, health, and safety retrofit programs found that for children with asthma, hospital admissions fell by nearly 85% and emergency visits by 68% a year after the upgrade. This is why this is one of the big reasons why I do this and why I go out, not talking just about energy, but about health, because obviously I have a lot of friends my same age who are having kids, and I want to make sure that they have healthy kids. And especially if you know of any health systems, I would be happy to speak to them, because I think there's not enough attention placed on this, because we have so much of the focus on outdoor air quality. My last slide, kind of talking about the materials. So as of March, unfortunately bad timing, because obviously the COVID-19 happened, but these are the 4 things that we are giving rebates for now. This is a heat pump water heater. You can it runs on electricity rather than gas, so you don't have to worry about checking for those gas combustion spillage. And by the way, I forgot to mention, if you look at your water heater and you see any corrosion on the top, that's a telltale sign that there's been some backdrafting. So be careful if you see that. Maybe contact, I'll have some resources at the end. Here's a mini split heat pump. Ductless mini split. This is technology that's used all over Europe and Asia to heat and cool. So you can actually replace both your furnace and air conditioning with this one system. And again, it uses, so just to talk about heat pumps, you all have a heat pump in your house. It's called a refrigerator. It basically, instead of generating cool, it takes the hot air inside the system and takes it out of the box. That's what these heat pumps do. They take hot air from the surrounding area, even when it's cold in the winter, it can still get hot air, compresses it, and puts the hot air into the house. And then you can reverse that cycle. You can take hot air inside the house and vent it out. So that's what it does for the water heaters. It does it for space heating and cooling. Here is the induction cooktop that I mentioned. Again, very efficient, cooks faster, more, you can actually be more precise, and no gas byproducts. And then the last one is this heat pump clothes dryer. Again, using heat pump technology, dries the clothes. You can get rebates for this all now. So, so what do you, and I wanted, Tina, do you want to just quickly mention what you did? I know there's not too much time, but if you want to mention what you did in your own house, or I can summarize.
There we go. Am I unmuted? So yeah. We used a local contractor that's very good about energy efficiency. It's their expertise, building performance professionals. We used them 8 years ago for our energy upgrade, and then we just did a remodel. And I learned so much. They did a walkthrough and talking about how most of the leaks in our house are out the little areas around the cuts in your framing, underneath the framing, around fixtures. And so what they did was they took foam spray and they sealed all the little leaks all around the house. The insulation here on the right is our ceiling. So they blew in foam in the ceiling and made it extremely tight. And there's this is an example of 3 different types of insulation. There's the foam that Jeffrey's pointing to, and then the one underneath that is blown in insulation. I'm not sure if he showed a picture of that up close being done. There we go. And that's the reason why the one on the right is so much more efficient than this fiberglass insulation on the left that you typically see, is because that fiberglass insulation leaves a lot of holes and spaces, whereas the blown insulation fills in all the little gaps. We actually had this done even before, when our house is really old, it's 1948, so they actually blew in the insulation by cutting holes in the existing, at the time it was plaster on the walls, and just blew it in. And then they cut little holes and blew it in and then sealed up the little hole. So, and this is a remodel, so they just did the whole thing. Now I wanted to share something interesting. The sheetrocker then came in, and he's never seen this before. Old school, we love him, but he looked at this and he was like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare. I can't put my sheetrock over that. Look, it's bowing out, it's too full. And so anyway, I said, don't worry, they do it all the time. Just put your sheetrock up and see how it goes. Well, then, one little screw was coming out, and it turns out because the people that hung it put the sheetrock over the outlet plates, And so it was bowing out because of that. And he thought it was bowing out because of the insulation. And he called me and he says, oh, this is all wrong. It's all ruined. And I was freaking out. And I called up Curtis from Mason Building BPP, Building Performance Professionals, who did the installation. And he said, oh, he was very calm about it. And anyway, it turns out it was perfectly fine. And it worked out great. There's no problems with it at all. And we have a really super tight home.
Yeah. I mean, that's simply the thing. I mean, like, we so much focus on solar and windows, but it's really just insulation and air sealing. If you just do that, your house can be a lot more comfortable. So I know I'm kind of going a little long, so wanted to just quickly go over what are the things, simple things that you can do, and what are the resources that we have to help. So first of all, you can go to our website. We can help you get really started with just easy things. You can fill out a self-assessment, and we will send you out LED, smart Shrub, low flow shower heads, aerators, just to get you going. When you need a little bit more help, we have this program called Home Energy Score, and that's someone who can come out and do a quick 1-hour assessment of your home. Obviously, people are, maybe a little bit wary of that, but it doesn't take, as things get back to normal, hopefully people can do some of these. But you basically get like a miles per gallon sticker for your home. Find out, kind of what are some easy things that you can do to improve your home. And it's essentially free, because we will give you a $200 assessment rebate. And the homeowner, unless your house is huge, it's not going to cost much more than that. So that's one easy way to do it. And then our program, again, it's a local government program, so this is unbiased help, but we have a home energy advisor whose only job is to walk you through this whole process. They can help you find contractors, they can answer any questions that you have. If you want to find, since we focus on energy, we don't do water rebates, but if you are interested, they will direct you to the complimentary program. So, call them, email them, they will walk you through every step of the way. So what are the rebates you can get? I'm just going to speed through this because I can send you that. It's on our website, but you can get rebates for duct sealing, duct replacement, attic sealing, insulation, all the things that I've been talking about. For, kind of the more efficient measures, you can get, up to $1,000 for the heat pumps that I was just talking about. So the heat, the newest rebates are those electrification rebates. They're $1,000 for the heat pump water heater and the heat pump for heating and cooling. And then starting Monday, contractors, if you're interested in heat pump water heater, let your contractors know to contact BayREN, because they will get $1,000 themselves if they register with us. So $2,000 to change out your water heater to something that's going to be more efficient and doesn't give off harmful gases. And so again, here are the rebates. Again, we can send this to you. One thing I want to note is we give these bonus rebates because there's things that when you do together, they do better. So for example, I call the downsizing Goldilocks rebate, because what most HVAC contractors do is they say, oh, your house is 2,000 square feet. You need a 5-6 ton furnace. They've actually you're supposed to do something called a manual J and a manual D calculation to figure out how big of a size you need. Because based on how leaky your duct system, based on how it's constructed, it could be a whole lot less. In fact, we've heard that people can basically half the size of their furnace and air conditioning when they actually do that calculation. So you would be paying a lot less because you're not buying such a big system, and you actually feel more comfortable and it's more efficient. So that's why we give these extra rebates. Starting in June and July, and this is you guys will be the first homeowner audience that hears this, is we're going to give a jumpstart incentive, June-July jumpstart incentive, to help get our contractors back to work. We're adding $1,000 to this incentive. This building shop, if you do like insulation along with switching out your furnace or water heater, because because of this whole situation, we want to get our contractors back to work and doing good things again. So if you are considering any of these, especially water heaters, because most people only do those when it fails. So it's better to plan it out and do it, because especially if you're switching from gas to electric, there's some things you may need to do with the panel, but it's a limited time. You're essentially getting $1,000 extra to do this. And our contractors, I need to mention that they are trained. We've actually just held a safety training with them on Tuesdays, so they know they've committed to following all of the safety protocols. We do the QA QC on all of them. They're better than your average contractor because we provide the oversight on them, and they also do all the paperwork for you. So if you wanted to take a look, as Tina mentioned, we have a couple contractors in this area. Go to our website, the Find a Contractor link, and you can start to see who are the contractors in your area that provide these services, and you can search based on what you're looking for, which languages, which counties they serve. I'm going to skip over this. There's, if you want information about financing, you can ask the home energy advisor. They're happy to walk you through that. So as I said, call an energy advisor to get started if you have questions. If you want to do this already, look for a contractor on our website. And that's my information. I kind of coordinate the regional programs, so I work with each individual county, but again, happy to provide this information. Oh, and also, since this is there's realtors in this group, I want to say we also have a program called the Green Labeling Program, where we are providing those trainings for the NAR Green designation for free. We just held a webinar version just a couple of weeks ago. So if you're interested, again, email me. I'll get you on the mailing list so that you can take those classes and kind of learn a little bit more about all these things that I've been talking about.
Jeffrey, thank you for joining us today here in Contra Costa. I know you run the whole Bay Area regional program, and we really appreciate you bringing your expertise here. It's really fun to work with you again.
Yes, as always.
So Ellen, should I go ahead and start my last part about the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge?
Yes, actually, yeah, go ahead and start that. And I have a quick question because your presentation was so informative. And I would like to see if you have any suggestions and advice, like quick tips about things that we can do right away. You can give us the tips after your next part of presentation and then take it from there.
That's exactly what I wanted to share. So let me go ahead and do that. So it'll just take me a few minutes. I wanted to tell you all about this really great program that, or tool that we just launched in the last year. And here it comes. Okay. So hopefully it launches from the slide that I was at the first time around. Okay, so it's called the Cleaner Contra Costa Challenge, and it's an online platform that makes it fun and simple and easy to learn about all the solutions that we have on climate and sustainability and the things that we talked about just already. And you know, how that each thing that you can choose and do would make an impact not only on the climate, but on how much money you can save, how much water you save, gas, etc. It also, the things that we do on here also can create local jobs, and you can work together with groups. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. It was made possible by a partnership between Sustainable Contra Costa and 3 cities of Walnut Creek, Antioch, and San Pablo. And we were fortunate, and the Contra Costa County. And fortunately, we got a grant from the Air District to launch this really great tool full of resources for people here in Contra Costa. So this is what the homepage looks like. It's at cleanercontracosta.org. And it's super easy to get started. You just click join the challenge or sign up at the top. And this, there we go. So it's 3 steps. First, you create a profile, and it just takes a few minutes to answer some questions. Actually, it takes 5 to 10 minutes. It's optional, but it's a really good thing to do because it sets your accurate baseline on where you're at right now. So you may or may not be surprised about what your household impact is, but you'll see that and be able to know where you're starting from. And then the next step is to explore the different actions and choose the ones that you want to take that are right for your household. And then if you want, you can work together with a group. So the first step, creating your energy profile, is easy. And like I said, it's optional. You just answer a series of questions, things like, you know, what kind of stovetop do you have, or what size is your garbage bin, how much do you fly in a plane every year? All the questions should be easy to answer, and if you don't, you can skip it and come back to it later. So this will show you your starting point. So you'll see how your household compares to other households in the county. This says Palo Alto because this is actually a sample photo from Palo Alto, but ours would say Contra Costa and the US and beyond. So this is the where you would find, be able to explore the actions that are right for your household. This grid shows you can just click on any one of these topics at the top and it'll load them down here, and then you can always see more. But each individual action will show you if it's easy, how many points you'll get, and how much money it will cost you to do it. And then if you click on the tile itself of that action, you'll see more information like, you know, what your impact would be of taking that action, what the time commitment is, how many kilowatt hours it would save. It'll also tell you what the upfront costs are and your annual savings. So your points are equal to impact. So 1 point equals about a pound of CO2 reduced a year. For that action, or gallons of water saved, depending on what action you're doing. So this is a step. This is down below that on the action page, you'll find some helpful information on how to do it. Now, this one, changing light bulbs, isn't rocket science, so you may not even need to look at the steps, but a lot of them can be really helpful. Some of them are more complicated. And like one of my favorite ones is under the reduce and reuse action. The first step is to get off junk mail. How many of us are annoyed with how much junk mail we get every day? I know I am, and I'm sure everybody gets it. So 2 things I do: I save my catalogs, and then I call the phone numbers on the back. Like, you know, one day I'll just set aside 10 minutes and call and get my name off their catalog list. And it also will show you how to use a website to get off junk mail marketing lists. If you don't need to learn about the steps, just skip it, mark the action is done, and move on. My favorite part about the action pages is these custom resources that you'll see at the bottom. So this is for doing a home energy audit, and it'll show you our local resources. So the BayREN rebate program that Jeffrey was just talking about is here. And you can click on that. Easy to find all the information. You just click on them. There might be a nonprofit that offers a service related to this action, you'll see it here. And okay, what was I going to say about that? I don't remember. So, important. You cannot see the local resources at the bottom of the action page unless you're logged in, because these are specific to the city that you live in. So nothing will show up if you're not logged in. So that's the second step. The final step is to join a team, or start a team or group. You can work with others. So there's 2 types of groups that you can create: either a team, which is like 5 to 8 people, or a community group, which might be for like a club, a bigger club, or a church or something like that. So it's super easy. You just click a button that says create a team. It'll create you a page. You can put in a photo and a little tagline. And then once you create your page, it'll give you a button to send out a link and invite people who you want to invite to your team. So the platform has really something for everybody. There are things that you can do to get started right away. There are the more step it up actions or things for people who already do a lot in their homes. And there's also hanging out at home actions. So we created this a few weeks ago, things that we can do while we're all hanging out at home. And there's actions for people on a budget. There's actions for renters. In fact, over half the actions on the platform are either free or very low cost, or no, either free and will save you money. So we often encourage people to set themselves a goal for their household of reducing 5,000 pounds of CO2 in the first 6 months. And that's pretty easy to do. Here's an example of one family that just chose these 4 things. They lowered their thermostat by 3 degrees, which you probably won't even notice 2 or 3 degrees. They decided to eat less meat once per week. We have Amanda and Dave here on our call today that just gave a really great talk on Earth Day with us about meatless Mondays and their experience with that, and encouraging people to commit to having meatless 1 day a week. This family decided to look at their trips and decide how they could combine their trips. And they chose 100% green, or if you have MCE, it's called deep green. And that's only $5 a month to do this. So here's the results. It cost them very little to do it. They invested $60, and that was their annual cost of going 100% renewable with PG&E or MCE. And they saved up to $530 a year and 5,000 pounds of CO2. So it really is easy to make a difference. And just to recap the steps, you just create your account, start or join a team, discover your impact, choose your actions, which will create a plan for you. The important thing is you may not, even if it's not something that you want to do, say today, go ahead and choose that action. And it'll put it on your list so that you can see, it'll remind you, you can set a due date for it, and you can see what your impact will be if you complete your actual plan. And then get going and take action. So let's see, what else did I want to say? This is your regional My Region page, and it shows you our progress. We actually have 648 homes or something, 47 homes that have joined us since April, and last April. And so we hope that you'll join us. It's really easy. We've saved about $70,000 combined collectively, and 137 tons of CO2. So we hope that you'll join us. It's super easy. You could take out your phone, or hopefully when we get done here, you'll go to the website and sign in and join us and help us make a difference in Contra Costa County. And that's it for me.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Tina. Thank you very much for your very informative presentation. And so we have heard so much about everything. Let me see, I want to see everybody's face here to see. Can I see everyone? Anyway, so that's all I can get here.
Yeah, if you put it on gallery view, I think you should.
I did put it on gallery view, but then it just give me the minimize gallery view.
You can expand your that window, and it'll open it up and show you more people.
Well, Alan, we did have just 2 questions come in on the chat.
Yes.
I don't know if we wanted to take the time, but I was just going to read those.
Yes, why don't you go ahead?
So I think they're for Jeffrey, both of them. First was about the effectiveness of, or not, of putting curtains over the windows. Did you hear that, Jeffrey?
That helps. Definitely there are things, the measures that I spoke about, those are kind of the big things that you would want a contractor to do it, because they know the kind of the right way to do it. There's obviously things that you can do kind of on your own. One of the simple ones, you could even, if you have a tree in front of certain windows, then can prevent heat from coming in. Currents definitely. Trying to think of any other things. Just the ones that I were talking about were more structural, that they're going to make a bigger difference over time.
Okay.
We like to, open our windows at night and then close them up first thing in the day, and close the curtains on the south facing windows.
Yeah, one thing I really love in our house that doesn't have an air conditioner is a whole house fan, which they have a lot of in the south, but people aren't so familiar with them here in the west. But it's just mounted in the ceiling, and it's actually pulling air in the house and venting it out through the attic. But you run it at night, so in the hot summer days, you have all the windows open, and the house fan, it's not a ceiling fan all the way up in your roof, but it's in the ceiling of the room. I mean, sorry, it's not an attic fan that people have in their attic. It's in the ceiling of the room.
Right.
And it draws all that cool air overnight, and then you close up the house in the morning when it starts to warm up.
Okay, great. So the time now is actually 11:32. What is the other question? And after that, I will just summarize everything and conclude it.
Yeah, the other question was for Jeffrey about putting on a new roof on the house. This is from Isabel.
Yeah.
She's asking, is there anything else she should be doing in the attic while the roofing job is being done?
Yeah, anytime you have a chance to get in the attic, what most of the contractors will suggest is getting, kind of pulling out what insulation you have, cleaning it out, especially if it's cellulose, vacuuming it out. And you want to, if you have the opportunity, go in and seal as much as possible. Like all those cracks in around the kind of the attic space, that's where we're getting, not only the hot air kind of rising in, but sometimes if your house is particularly dusty, that may be one of the reasons. Because if you have holes up there, some people after they've done this upgrade, they say, "Oh wow, I didn't realize I have to dust less because all that air is not being kind of distributed throughout the house." So I would always air seal, insulate as much as possible, and especially while
we just did that, and I was like, well, why do we have to take out the old insulation? Can't we just leave it in there and put it on top? And my husband and the contractor encouraged me not to do that. And what happened was it made it smell so much better. I didn't realize how musty and dirty and yucky it was, that old insulation. And so taking it out and putting the new one in made a huge difference with just the smell and feeling much cleaner.
I had a picture I took out just because it's maybe a little bit too shocking, but there's oftentimes if it's not sealed properly, you'll see rat droppings because rats love to make their nests in insulation. And so that's why we always try to pull it out, vacuum and clean as well as possible. Because like I said, if we haven't done that before, that's sometimes the most comfortable place in the house in the winter, and all our pests love to live in there. And one other quick tidbit is also, if you start to see spider webs in your house, realize that spiders need airflow through the house, through a certain space to catch flies. And so, like, for example, we have to open up a window. Like I said, we have an apartment. And so when it gets hot in the summer, we open up that window, but there's always a little gap. And as soon as I run up there, you see spiders because there's that airflow through that space. So if you see spiders, that's a clear indication that you have some drafts in that area.
Okay, is that all the questions we have?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, so it looks like Isabel, maybe you want to check the roof insulation rebate when you do the new roof. Okay, because Jeffrey mentioned about that earlier.
And air sealing, you'll get rebates for air sealing too.
See, it's a good thing. So thank you very much, Tina and Jeffrey, for joining us today for such an informative seminar. And I believe that knowledge is king, and it's always the king. And with knowledge, we can plan and we can take action accordingly, and we'll see results. And regarding, from the beginning of the seminar that we talked about real estate and home prices and all of that. And, just wanted you to know, when I was studying for the green designation, what I learned was that for people who like to live closer to the big cities, because they don't want to drive. And so that's a good reason for not driving. So now people are not driving, we see cleaner air. However, at that time, people made the decision because for every dollar that people spend on the home mortgage, 7 cents is spent on transportation. And with that kind of cost, and with the changing of the transportation dynamics right now we have all over, not just in the Bay Area, then if people are considering more and more about moving out to suburbs without having to worry about transportation, I think we'll see more people coming into our neighborhoods, so they can live in a more spread out area and without having to worry about driving. And I really like Tina's presentation about the succulent gardening. There are just so many beautiful succulent gardens that I see, especially Isabel and Alexandra. In our neighborhood, when we had our social distance garden tour, we saw so many beautiful succulents, and water efficient and beautiful, and they bloom. They have flowers too. Little do we know that succulents are not just green plants. They have different textures, colors, and different variations. So it makes the gardens look even more dynamic. And so especially on top of that, we still also get the rebate for drought tolerant landscaping. Let me see. Also, because this is real estate related, I also want to make sure that we understand when we do our energy upgrades or things like that, it will actually add value to our properties. And by adding value, not just because of that making us feel good, by adding value is that when we do plan to sell our homes, who are the most likely buyers? The prime age for home buying activities, they are in between 35 and 50. So these are millennials that they grew up with the concept of energy saving, sustainability, responsibility, and things like that. And most of them who can afford to buy, they are not trained, or they're not comfortable about picking up the hammer and paintbrush to do things. They would like to go into a house and see everything is done and ready, and they pretty much will come with a checklist. Is this energy efficient? What kind of air conditioning system does it have? What kind of insulation does it have? They ask all those questions. And that's why some young people, if they can afford it, they will buy brand new homes because they can see it from the ground up. But for them to buy existing homes that do not have the upgrades or energy features, energy efficient features, then they will tend to just maybe go look at another house. So in order for our homes to be ready for the next buyer, whenever that may be, it's probably not now, but when you're ready to sell 10, 15 years down the road, maybe you continue to upgrade it, in the energy direction. And Jeffrey gave us a very good presentation as well. I remember at one point somebody said that do not put your couch directly against the wall. So now we saw a picture of that, so if you could leave a gap, maybe an inch or two from the wall, you will allow the couch to breathe instead of giving the human moisture to go against the wall without the moisture having the chance to run away. And Jeffrey, I want to ask you, is it true that down the road, the building code does not allow gas stoves in the building?
Yeah, I think things are moving that way. From our perspective, we, because our electricity is getting cleaner and cleaner, because we're bringing on so much solar. The state's goal is to move toward electric appliances. From a personal perspective, it's about health and safety. So I think in the next couple of cycles, you may see that that the code disallows gas appliances. Again, this is more for new construction. So, in terms of switching, we still have a lot of work to do there. But yeah, that's kind of the direction. And just one other tidbit to throw in there. What we'll also start to see is, because we're starting to get so much solar, that in the next year, we're going to move to time of use rates. So it becomes almost more important when you use your energy as much as how much you use. And so that 4 to 9 time period, it's going to get a lot more expensive, because the solar, we no longer get solar at that time, and then people are coming home using a lot more energy. So what you'll start to hear about is something called load shifting. So if we can take the energy that we would usually use then and push it to later or earlier and store it. So batteries are going to become more of a thing in the near future. So that's just a preview.
Okay, I have another question. What is NO and NO2?
Nitrogen oxide.
And how would you get that in the house?
It's incomplete. It's a product of incomplete combustion. So basically, anytime you have gas, it's not going to burn 100%. So these byproducts come out.
Okay, so that's alongside carbon monoxide.
Exactly. Yes.
I see. Okay, thank you. And so today we have learned a whole lot. Won't you agree? We've learned so much. Thank you, Tina, and thank you, Jeffrey. And I want to say that I think there's something that we can all do right away, and that is the Meatless Monday. I think we can commit to that, can we? Meatless Monday, everyone. And then the next thing that we should do, after this seminar, we can start thinking about forming teams. Starting with you, then each one of us form a team, and we can compete with each other to see how much energy we can save. In 6 months, is that a 6-month competition, or is it a competition at all? Or is it just us competing with us? Tina.
Oh no, you can see a leaderboard on the platform. So all the teams are competing against each other, in a fun way, friendly competition.
We have short-term goals. So teams that get a certain number of points during a particular period get prizes, but it's an ongoing competition.
So we just started the spring challenge last week, and that goes for the next through September. And so the teams with the most points over this next 6 months will get recognized by the Board of Supervisors and get prizes and things like that.
Okay, I want to get on Isabel's team because she is going to replace the roof. She'll get a lot of points.
Very good.
Okay, any other questions?
Do you want to unmute everybody, Tyler?
Sure. Okay.
There we go.
Any other questions?
Maybe I do.
Yes.
Is there financing for roofing? I have to say this, I'm a foreigner. I've been in this country for only 3 years, so I don't know really how things work here. Is there financing for re-roofing? Is there like a government, or how does it go?
Yeah, there are a couple of financing programs. I think, there's pros and cons to that. I think it's probably best if you talk to the home energy advisor, because they can walk you through some of those options.
Great.
In fact, I used to promote some of those.
Great, thank you.
Okay, at least I know that there's roof insulation rebate.
Yes, definitely.
At least. Okay, any other questions? Well, with no other questions, I want to thank everyone for your precious time, and I hope that you found yourself learning something that you can use, learning something that's practical, valuable, that you can continue to use for the rest of your life. Then come back and check in with us, check in with Tina and Jeffrey, and also want to thank Tyler, our tech guru, for monitoring our event. And am I unmuted? So with this, I want to thank everyone. And wait a minute. Sandra. Sandra, is Alan around?
He's right here. Hang on.
Alan?
Yes. Thank you very
Alan, I
much.
want you to show your face.
I'm coming to show my face, all of it. You can have it.
Yeah,
Hi.
Alan is our neighbor, and he's also 1031, not the 1031 exchange, but tell us your title.
Okay, well, I'm a recovered attorney, having quit practice 7+ years ago, and I deal mostly with commercial real properties and tax-deferred exchanges. But I also have a monetized installment sale program, which is going to be the subject of one of your next events.
Like monetized, yeah, installment.
Monetized installment sale. It's authorized by the IRS, Code Section 45384. It's supported by the American Bar Association and the SEC. Briefly, a seller of any asset other than the home he or she resides in at the time can be sold. The money run through a 1031 agent, and you defer the capital gains taxes and recovery of accelerated depreciation for 30 years. So you pay in cheap dollars, or it may even be covered by the estate tax exemption. And you can do anything you want with the money.
All right. Thank you, Alan. We will announce the seminar in due course. And well, there's just so much for us to learn in the area of real estate. And you know, other than buying and selling and filling out all the piles of documents.
Ellen, one other thing I could add is you're
Yes.
not looking for real estate. You can sell collectibles, cars, land, art, any asset.
Yes, but my focus is real estate related. Any other assets that don't ask me.
Okay, well, it's primarily for commercial and industrial properties.
Okay, so there are many ways to handle your real estate transactions, handle your real estate assets, and many ways to preserve your assets for a very, very long time to come. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us for this seminar, and as we continue to present future seminars, and I would like to see you again. With that, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Alan.
Bye.
Thanks, Ellen. Thanks, everyone.